In a world where content is limitless, two dudes forge an unbreakable bond to become a part of something larger than themselves by creating a podcast unlike nothing the world has ever heard. Time is running out, and all hope will soon be lost. Their content could hold the key to fight against the darkness. No matter how many podcasts the people have listened to, they haven't heard us. Not Us United.
Well, Nick, we are joined yet again by another person in your basement.
Yes. We have a lot of people in our basement now.
Yeah. Our basement. It's collective.
Yeah, it's our basement.
Okay, cool.
The Not Us United.
The Not Us United.
Basement.
Hey, cheers. Cheers. We're all drinking a little something.
Cheers.
Theoretical.
There we go.
We all cleaned glasses or cans. This week we're joined by our friend Caleb,
That is correct.
and we will be talking about his favorite movie, Star Wars: A New Hope.
Yeah. So Caleb, tell us a little bit about yourself. Who are you? And why are you here?
Oh, that's a
Just
broad.
give us everything.
That's a broad question.
What's your
never
deepest,
yes or no
darkest
questions for
fears?
podcasts.
What's your?
Yeah.
It's like improv. No, there's no.
So I grew up in this area, the Iowa City area. Basically lived here my whole life, and I think this is part of my Star Wars story.
There you go.
So we'll
Here we
include it in it. But grew up out in the country, surrounded by a bunch of woods, dead end road. Homeschooled until 9th grade,
Oh, wow.
and I had 4 siblings. So part of the reason I got so into Star Wars is didn't have a lot else to do.
Great.
But there's obviously more to it than that. So,
Yep.
So I grew up in this area, went to Iowa Mennonite School, and then University of Iowa, and basically have lived here my whole life and been a Star Wars fan since I was probably, whenever they released the remastered versions was when I got into it. So it was like 97 roughly, I think, is when they did it.
Sounds about right.
Yeah. So I was maybe a little old to initially become a Star Wars fan. I was like 10.
Yeah.
But that's when I was first introduced to it.
Fair enough. Did you ever have the collector's 3 VHS?
Oh, I still have it.
The unedited versions.
Oh, absolutely.
This guy.
I got
We
so
brought the right guy
lucky.
into the podcast.
Let's go.
I got so lucky. So I went to what is this store? I don't remember what it is. Where it used to be in like every mall where they'd sell movies.
Oh, like an FYE or something.
Something like that. Yeah, I don't even remember what it was. And they had that set where they hit the six disc set.
Oh, sure.
Oh, wow.
And it's all the originals. So it's the original theatrical version and then the remastered version as well.
Nice.
And the original is better. By
100%.
far.
Okay,
Yeah,
good.
It's
Yeah,
way
good.
better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of us.
Yeah. And I mean, Han shot first. I mean, come on.
Yes, let's go. Oh my god.
We all know that. Come on.
Cheers to that.
I used to watch. I liked those so much. I used to watch those videos where it compare the differences. This is
Yeah.
getting too geeky in the beginning of this, but
We're literally talking about Star Wars. So.
And you can say spoilers. It's been
that's
out
the whole
for
thing.
Yeah.
years and years and years. It's fine.
Yeah. So, but it's just funny. I mean, so I don't know how quick you want to dive into specifically
Go for it.
that topic, but
Sure.
kind of how I got into it was interesting because I didn't see really any of them and really even know it existed until the remastered ones got re-released in the theater. So I don't remember for sure, but I'm fairly certain the first time I saw it would have been going to the theater.
Yeah.
When the first one came out, was re-released, the remastered version in 97. Dad took me. So Dad was a big fan. He loved it from when he was a kid. He had gone and seen all the originals in the theater, and he had always liked it. He liked Star Trek too, which I just never really got there, but
Same.
way too nerdy.
Which is ironic because we live right next to
I know,
the
right?
hometown of Captain Kirk.
The fictional birthplace, yeah.
Yeah, the fictional. Yeah. Very good.
Yeah. So shortly after that, so I got into the remastered version. I was about that age, about 10, and then they started coming out with the prequels, you know. And so the anticipation for the prequels, I mean, was huge. Like having just become a Star Wars fan, and then all of a sudden they have new movies coming out.
It's a good time.
Of it, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And so I overlooked a lot of things, like some of the major downfalls of those movies, and still loved it. But there was that stint in life for me. It was like I was
This
obsessed.
is it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I saw the original Star Wars remastered, and then went to the other ones as they came out, and then I was way too
Sold.
into it.
That's awesome.
Reading the books and going down that rabbit hole.
Nice.
My guy.
Yeah, to talk about a little bit of the hype growing up. So I know we're talking a little bit about the Phantom Menace, which is obviously episode 1 instead of episode 4. But my theater, the hype was so intense that there was only like 2 showings, and then somebody tried to commit arson and burn down the theater while everyone was in it, because it was just crazy.
Wow.
So our theater never actually like bounced back, and we had like to go to this different theater for a while, and then they rebuilt part of it and all this stuff. But it was like during that week when people were going to see like Phantom of the Menace like 4 or 5 times. Like by the 3rd time, it was like, everyone needs to leave. It's smoking. Somebody's lit this place on fire.
Literally, this movie's so fire.
This was in Centerville.
Yes, that is correct. Yeah, it was crazy.
wild.
So it was like on news. It was like in our mall, like whatever that was. It was a very small strip mall. And to this day, there's still just a crater in between the buildings. Like there's no, like they never fully built it back. It's just this section is now a thing, and this section is now a thing, and there's just void in between.
That's so.
So anyway. The
Wow.
hype for Star Wars
literally burned a theater down.
caused
to the
people to commit crimes. It's wild, but
That's crazy.
anyway, yes, I agree. I think people are excited. I wasn't that excited for Star Wars. Not like I'm going to burn the place down, but I'm still very excited for Star Wars.
So yeah, so I'm a little bit older than you guys both. Not a lot. So I mean, how old were you guys when you got into it?
You want to go first?
Yeah, so I also I got into it at a pretty young age. It was actually excuse me. It was actually in Iowa. I was visiting my aunt, and she was living out here, and so I lived not in Iowa at the time. And so we went, and I remember the first time I saw was in her basement. I saw the original trilogy, loved them, and then I feel like Phantom Menace had to have come out by this point because I was born in '96, so I would have been probably too young. And so Attack of Clones, I remember very vividly going to the theater at least 30 times, because it was like $1. It was $1 movie. Okay, maybe not 30 times.
You topped the Titanic lady from back in the day.
Like, so we were living in Phoenix at the time, and it was summer, it was hot, and on Tuesdays they did $1 movies. And so what else are we gonna do except go to the movie theater and see Star Wars?
Yeah.
And so fell in love with Star Wars. Ultimately fell in love with the second one, which I now think is the worst Star Wars movie.
Oh, I was hoping you were gonna get there. When you said you saw it 30 times, I was like, "Whoa, is that his favorite one?"
No, it's ironically the one that well, obviously I love the trilogy. I fell in love with those, but that's the one I've probably seen Attack of the Clones the most. But it's the one that I like the least, and I think is honestly straight hot garbage.
Yeah. Agreed.
But it's just funny that that's the one that got me.
Yeah.
It is.
And the sad part about that movie too is that it's like the one with the most lightsabers. So you're like, this has got to be the best.
Yeah.
And it just wasn't.
And it's the most boringest one too. It's like, how did I sit through that as a kid for 2 hours and then lightsabers all of a sudden come out? The end fight is great, but
even
the
just
build up to that
the
is
dialogue in that movie. I mean, it's like,
rough.
It was Star Wars. I didn't care. I was a kid. Everything was was
sure.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what about you, Nick?
Similar story to Caleb. For me, like Star Wars has always been like a father-son thing, which I mean leads into the story itself. But like, I feel like that's how my generation got exposed to it, was the collector VHS set or some sort of memorabilia like that. And so my dad obviously introduced it to me. So I had already seen them, all 3 of the originals on VHS before I went to go see Phantom of the Menace, of the Mantis, yeah. But no, I was in. Like, it was such a cool. It's weird how young you can be and still pull from this movie, because it's not. I wouldn't argue that, or I wouldn't say that they're necessarily like children's movies,
Right.
especially like the originals. But something about them still is the simplicity of
Like a
maybe
wonder
the
to
story
it,
or the plot or something. I think it's just so easy to digest that it's like you're still getting something from it, even though you don't fully understand everyone's motives at the age of like 8, or
Right.
whatever.
Yeah.
So that would be my upbringing. And then as soon as I saw Darth Maul with the one lightsaber, and then the other lightsaber blade comes out, I was
That's
like,
when the fire hit the
game over,
theaters.
game over. I don't even care. Greatest villain of all time.
Man. Yeah, there was a lot of anticipation leading up to that movie with the double lightsaber.
Yeah, I mean, and there's still songs that like take you back. You know, we were talking, like you had mentioned with like Chris and our Lord of the Rings episodes. There are just like
Scores.
there was something about the score in these movies that still can just hit you to this day. Where
Absolutely.
if you hear like the
John Williams,
Mhm.
the GOAT.
he is the goat.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah, and he made all the way until the last 3 movies, right? So
Yep.
I don't think he made. Maybe he made.
I don't think he did Rogue One or Solo Story.
Right.
But he did all the main trilogy.
Did he do the last 3?
I thought he did.
Oh, did he?
I could be wrong.
Yeah, he
I,
did.
I can look it up for
I'm
facts, but yeah.
90% sure he did.
So that's one thing I'll preface this with on this podcast is anybody of your listeners who's listened to this and heard Chris Blanker's level of knowledge in Lord of the Rings, that is not me. I respect Chris a lot for that because Lord of the Rings is amazing.
Yeah.
Actually, a lot deeper than Star Wars in many ways, but not as much fun, arguably. But
Well, I mean, I don't know. But
that's hard to say. But I was I was like very into it
yeah.
at a young age. And then it has stayed with me consistently over the years where, like, of course I'm seeing everything that comes out.
Yeah.
But the obsession level for me is much lower than it used to be. So I don't really, my knowledge has really dropped off. I will.
There's so much
preface
you
this
can go
with.
into. Literally everything you see on screen has probably a full Wikipedia page on it.
Oh,
Wikipedia, excuse me.
Wikipedia,
yes,
that's
yes.
right.
Yeah. But like just that, like Star Wars is probably like one of the largest, if not one of the first fandoms that really like changed the landscape of how movies operate. Really, I don't know if that.
Yeah.
No,
that
I
could
believe
be,
you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think there's something to that where like Star Wars obviously made a change and there's just a fandom around it that, you know, as we'll talk about, has positives and negatives, but
Yeah. No,
Yeah, I mean, how common is that actually? That I mean, Star Wars was as a movie. I mean,
Yeah.
it was started as a movie. I mean, Lord of the Rings was a book
right.
Yeah.
to a movie,
It was all just
and
an
there was
idea.
there's a lot of content behind
True.
it. I mean, one of the questions you asked me, Nick, is like, why is Star Wars, the original Star Wars, like my favorite movie? And that's a lot of it for me is the pure originality of it.
Yeah.
Like if you just watched it today, like my kids have watched it and the original ones they like, but they don't love them.
They don't hold that same power as it would over us.
For
you know?
sure.
Yeah.
But I mean, you look back on it today, like, I mean, how novel it was for the
Yep.
time. And the fact, like, think of everything that it was rolled into that movie. Like, it was created for that first movie. Like, the Force, like, Darth Vader as a character, like, all these spaceships that were so intricate, like, all this. And it was very, like, this was not common back then. And even the production value, like, the level to which they did it was very impressive. So that's actually interesting, too, that it built that fandom without that previous content.
Yeah.
And depth behind it. That was created after.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a lot of it was created 20 years after that. I mean, a lot of the books and stuff were written in like the 90s and things like that, like way after they were made. So I don't know. It is interesting. I didn't really thought about that.
Well, that was one thing I was going to say too about this fandom is I don't even know if you just watched the 9 movies that you would have all that much knowledge. I mean, it is something that kind of like is more of a catalyst for somebody took it and then ran with it this
go
direction.
deeper,
And now if you want to read 14 novels about it, great, or whatever. So I think too, like in your defense, unlike the Lord of the Rings where there's like source material and then there's these movies that are like super deep, this is more just like, hey, there's this thing, he's a Wookiee.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we gotta go and like,
But it's
and so
almost
now
like,
you can go and figure out what a Wookiee is later.
That's how it's good because like that's most. We'll still focus on like the main trilogy and obviously number 4. Like they stand on their own, and they're still solid movies. But if you want to go and like dig deeper into something, you can. And that's where a lot of movies like now fall short. Is like we're trying to explain everything, or we're explaining too little, or it's like we're trying to build this whole world where Star Wars just like kind of throws you in there, and it's like if you want to, cool, go for it. But this story still stands as a movie and as a story. You don't need to know all this other things to enjoy it or to even understand what's going on.
Yeah. So there's also a lot of like I would say I agree that it's a very original story, but the things that it kind of pulls from are similar threads that like we've like. It's easier to digest. I mean, when you think of like even some of like the biblical undertones of like Star Wars with the Force and like the Holy Spirit and like the Chosen One and those types of tropes. However, because the plot was very like, all right, here's the good guy, here's the bad guy, there's the thing, go blow it up. It was like, okay, dope. I don't need to know everything. Let's just go have fun now. You know, like it's just very like by the book.
It was, I mean, it was the objectives were very clear in the movies. There was always some very specific thing they were trying to accomplish, but it was the good and evil, like the very clear good and evil, I think is a really big draw to it. I mean, a lot of movies, and it's interesting. I'm not saying, not trying to knock movies that blur that line and make it really gray, but it is very stark.
Right.
Yes.
In Star Wars. And I love it in that. I mean, and again, we're going to stick to the original, but, you know, the development of some of the characters, particularly like Darth Vader, over the course of the 3 original movies is very interesting. And they try to replicate that happening in the other sets, and it's just not the same.
When you hear, here's a question for you. When you hear James Earl Jones' voice, do you think Mufasa or Darth Vader?
Oh.
I mean, obviously Darth Vader,
Yeah.
but also Mufasa.
Yeah, the second place.
I also grew up watching Lion King, one of the few movies that's ever made me cry in the theater.
Oh,
So.
yeah, nice. I was just curious because I think that might be a generational thing, but I just was wondering.
Both, but mainly Darth Vader.
My dad would always talk about, like, you speaking of Darth Vader, like probably his favorite moment in cinematic history is when Darth Vader comes out for the first time, and you're like, that's the bad guy, and his theme is going on, and it's just like, it's so intimidating. Like, he's in a stark white room, and like all the stormtroopers are all in white, and then she's all black.
Yep.
And it's just like this contrast, and you can just tell right, oh, this is the bad guy. He's dope. He's scary. He's dope, and like he's just great. So it's just, I think that's just a potency where it's just like almost simplicity is best, where it's like, hey, here's our villain.
No, I agree. His like physical presence, because I think they like the guy in the suit was like 7 feet tall, so like with the suit on, just an absolute giant. I actually got to meet the guy who got to be in the Darth Vader suit, not James Earl Jones, but the guy who like was the
British
body
guy, who was like,
there was Star Wars days at Disney World back in the day where they would actually get the actors, and so I got to meet the guy who played the main Ewok in Return of the Jedi. I got to meet
Wicket.
And then the guy who played Darth Vader, and then the guy who also was in Boba Fett's suit.
Nice.
Not his voice, but the guy who played
Dang.
Boba Fett. So
That's
kinda
cool.
because it's like you see him and like next to people, they'd be like, "Oh, is that like your grandpa?" Or like, who is this guy? Because like they're not known for their actual thing. But also like props to the guy who's just like, I'm gonna be the most like popular villain of all time, and no one's gonna know who I am.
Right.
Like that's some cool humility from like an actor too, to be like, I'm just gonna accept it. You know?
Well, like there's like, I don't know if you guys know the controversy about it, where it's like he was originally thinking he was gonna speak for the part.
Oh, I did not know that.
It's like, and he has like, if you look at takes, it's like he has this high British voice, and it's like, take me to their ship, and it's just like, it's just a completely different character.
That's how it started.
Yeah.
And then they ended up, they recognized that he wasn't going to be
He's not menacing enough.
No, he's he's
that makes a lot of sense then.
Yep.
Okay, I just assumed they're like, well, we've talked to James Earl Jones, so there's literally no like competition.
We heard his voice.
Yeah, he was really upset about it
pissed,
when they did that. Yeah.
Oh wow.
There's some interesting, and we can, I don't know how much we get into that kind of stuff, but there's this podcast called, I think, Making Star Wars or something like that. It's like one of those, one of the big podcast companies puts it out, and it's about like how Star Wars almost didn't happen. So a lot of it's about George Lucas and the writing of it and all that, and it's very interesting. But they talk about a lot of the characters in it, and Alec Guinness.
Guinness,
So he was like, at that time, he was like, I believe he had won like an Oscar and that kind of stuff for like a bridge too far, a bridge over the Kwai, and so he's like, what is this movie like? And he, like, when they were making it, he just thought it was trash, like, so he's actually, besides Han Solo, probably like my favorite character in
Obi-Wan.
in the original Star Wars movie. I mean, he's that like in this, I took one film class in my life ever, and it was at Iowa, and they talked about, the transformational characters in movies and how they like a lot of this like typical structures they use in movies. Like there's the
hero's journey,
exactly the hero's journey, the guide, all those roles. So like it's like he used Star Wars as an example because it fits that formula so perfectly.
Yeah.
But Obi-Wan is that guide, and he just like Alec Guinness just plays it to a T. Like he's just ideal. But supposedly he was like a huge jerk on the set.
Yeah.
Like really, he was like kind of like the prima donna, like always just talking about how terrible it was. Like supposedly that's what I remember hearing in the podcast. I just thought that was funny. I mean, you can't see any of that in it. He's like the most accomplished actor in the movie by far.
Oh yeah, he's the only.
All the other ones are basically newcomers, right?
For sure. Yeah.
That's crazy. I bet if I was like Mark Hamill though, I'd just be like, holy crap. Like I don't even think they really knew what they were doing.
No, they did not.
But like after the fact, I mean, I too probably would also just go crazy. Like, yeah, that's nuts.
Yeah, you could tell when Mark Hamill came back and was back in the limelight for the last 3 movies that it meant a lot to him, you could say.
Yeah.
It was weird to watch the things that he did publicly and all that and the statements that he tried to make, but it would be weird. I mean, you look at the main characters from it, like Carrie Fisher kind of went off the deep end after that.
Yep.
Mark Hamill kind of went, and then Harrison Ford went on to just be like a total badass. Yeah. And Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Air Force One.
Yeah, what was his story? Wasn't he like a waiter or something? And like,
yep.
Yeah,
was gonna like.
It was American Graffiti.
Yeah.
Was made before this George Lucas's like first film.
That was his first. Yep.
And then like he was like some kind of waiter, and George Lucas was like, "Hey, you should be in this movie." And he's like, "Okay." And then he also brought him on to Star Wars because he's like, "Hey, I like you. I think you'd be good for this character." And like his life literally just
I mean, I'm sure we can all think of like conversations where it's like, "Oh, my life would be drastically different if." But like Harrison Ford's life would be so incredibly different.
He just said no.
If there was not one
he was
conversation
like sick that day, or like he just didn't go to work.
It's
crazy. Just wild. Yeah.
Because he's like a national treasure basically at this point. Like,
and so I don't know. Again, you're leading the agenda here, and the topic we go. But like Harrison Ford, specifically Han Solo. He's my favorite character in the movie.
Oh, nice. Love it.
Good call. It's, I mean, there's you could get into a lot of reasons, but I love the arc of his character. Like how he, just over that one movie. I mean, his arc of the character is, I mean, let's stick to the originals because I don't like how it goes in that.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah.
And the other ones, but just the way that he transforms like as a person and a leader and all that, but specifically in the first one, that moment he comes back in the Falcon.
Oh, it's so good.
And exactly. And just bails him out. Oh my gosh. It's the best.
Oh, how is this movie so good?
Here's the real question though. How true of a Han Solo fan are you? Have you dressed up as Han Solo before?
Let's see. How many times?
We brought the right guy.
Yeah, well, it's kind of
how many Halloweens?
It's kind of embarrassing, actually. All right, so how widely distributed is this podcast?
We have like
10 people.
A soft 8 to 10.
Okay, we're fine. Okay. All right. So before I overshare anything, I'm gonna regret. I mean, it's my.
This is a hot scoop.
Yeah,
hot scoop.
Not really, but so okay. So I told you I got into it when I was like 10.
Yeah.
So that time period, there was this time period that what would that have been like? 4th grade or something like that. So between like 4th grade and 7th grade, boom, I was in.
Oh,
committed.
Yeah.
7th grade, I'm like, oh man, this is way too dorky. I'm not gonna have any friends if I'm way into this. Yeah. But so like 4th grade, 7th grade, hugely into it. I got so into it that I subscribed to this magazine, Star Wars Insider.
Yes.
Oh man, I had all the info.
Yeah.
Everything that was coming down the pipeline. They did this contest. It was like every month you submitted a picture of like your Star Wars collection, and they would like choose the kid that like they wanted to put in the magazine. So I was like, oh, there's no way I'm not getting this. Like,
sign me up.
I worked on the farm, and all the money that I got, I'd like pour into Star Wars toys. So I probably had like thousands of dollars of Star Wars toys, and just like tons of stuff. So I went in my room, decked out my entire room. Like I set up all my toys, I displayed them all in like all these battles set up, all this stuff that to me was so cool. Then, of course, decked out full Han Solo outfit.
My guy.
Cut like red stripes to put on my pants, like all that stuff. Took a picture, sent it in. I was convinced, like, I'm getting this.
Dude, I'd pick you.
Please.
Did not get it.
Oh man, I'm hard.
Heartbroken.
Dude, that sounds like how did they not pick you, man?
Is that the real reason after 7th grade you didn't like Star Wars?
It could be. Yeah.
It wasn't that
The
dorky.
defeat.
It was
My
that-
family loves to drag that. Oh, that I didn't get it?
Yeah, you didn't.
The real question is, do you still have that photo?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I don't know where I have it at home, but my family loves to drag it out. They think it's hilarious. But I was kind of fat at the time, too. And, like, just like a chunky little kid.
Chunky
Nice,
Solo.
thick
Yeah.
Han Solo.
Exactly.
I love
Yeah.
it.
So that was the first time I dressed up as him. And then at least one, if not two Halloweens. So
as an adult or still
as an
child?
adult,
Okay.
yep. So
Nice.
a
Wow.
joyous Halloween one year. My wife dressed up as Leia, and she
Oh
did
my
the
goodness.
buns and all that
Oh,
stuff, you know.
nice.
Yeah. And then I dressed up as Han Solo. So that was.
Did you tell her you loved her and then she said, "I know"?
Why I say that all the time?
Okay, good. I love it. I just also like that you made a comment that you're like, "Hey, I'm not gonna have like Chris Blanker's levels of knowledge," but then you also tell us that you're so decked out. in Han
You literally
Solo.
submitted a photo to Star Wars Insider.
See, Chris actually has knowledge. I was just a dork.
Yeah, but you were
just
you were
in.
into it.
Yeah, you were
so
just like, and that's
that's
just
perfect.
like levels of fandom. Like there's like different ways to express it. So
Yeah.
this movie just impacted you, and so
Yeah, it did. I mean, yeah, I really loved it for that time period in life. So
so did you come back to it?
so yes. So what basically happened was I had that recognition in like 7th grade that if anybody finds out I have a giant Star Wars, and this was it was ill conceived. I mean, it was wrong, but
Right.
if anybody finds out I have this giant Star Wars collection, I'm gonna have zero friends.
Yeah,
so
no girlfriends.
what did I do? Sold all my Star Wars toys at a garage sale, got rid of all of them, not anticipating I'd have 3 boys someday.
Yeah.
And then I kind of went through high school and wasn't necessarily that into it. And then I became an adult, and I was like, oh, actually, I love Star Wars. Like, I have no reason to dislike it.
Yeah.
And kind of got back into it again. And there was stuff along the way like that I watched and was interested in. But like Attack of the Clones, so that's where it fell off. I actually didn't even see that movie
Oh wow.
for years after it came out.
I saw it enough for you.
So I mean, I know, right? But the Phantom Menace, like, I was so into it, and then by the time Attack of the Clones came out, it
were
was
past.
kind of gone
Oh,
at
that's
that point.
crazy.
I know, it was kind of sad. But by the time I got back around to it, so I again was so into it, and a lot of his dad and I talk about it over the years. Like, he's loved it, and so he, we bring it up. And now they have all these shows coming out.
Yeah,
like, it's
nostalgia.
it's constant. Yeah. But I actually made when my wife and I got married, she had never seen Star Wars. So that was risky.
That needs to be changed.
I know. That's what I did. So the day after we got married in our hotel room, when we got up in the morning, we watched the first Star Wars movie.
Oh my
Yep.
guy.
Well
Yep.
done.
So I was like, we're not going through one day without watching this.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
A
it's
man
good.
after my own heart.
That's good.
This kind of feels, and I don't want to like compare it to like Marvel, but I do kind of want to. Like, I feel
Yeah.
like Star Wars was kind of almost the first iteration
Yeah.
that kind of led to something like a Marvel,
fandom could
where
be, yeah.
you could have all the Marvel movie knowledge and still have no idea having read a comic book, or you could have all the comic book knowledge and never see the stuff. But like, I just
Yeah.
think it's kind of a neat. That for me is the same thing. Like, me and my wife made our vows. That was like, we're not going to see a premiere without the other. You
Yeah.
know, like if possible, we cannot do that. So I just think it's awesome that like on your first day of marriage, it's like we have to watch Star Wars. For me,
Yeah.
it's like I can't. Like, people are like, "Have you seen the new movie yet?" I'm like, "Well, when Kate's available, we'll go see it. I cannot go without her first, you know." So that's great.
That's awesome.
But I also love too that the common like story I hear is like my dad usually is what got me into it, or like my parents are what got me into it, because I do think there is like this really cool father son. And the first one, you don't really get to see that come full circle, but maybe we could talk a little bit about that in the movie. But
Yeah.
what are your guys' thoughts on like the father son dynamic of just even in The New Hope? Because it's spicy. It's
Yeah.
like the sins of your family.
Well, yeah, that's like all Star Wars is. It's about the Skywalker saga. You know, it's about this one family just screwing up the entire galaxy for everyone else.
Yeah.
It's not super prevalent in the first one
Mm-hmm.
because it's not known.
True.
But I think that's I mean, what Star Wars is, it's like a family saga. It's a family drama. It's a family I don't know.
Yeah,
it's hard to see without
you're exactly right.
in just the first one, it's not present. But throughout the rest of it, there's that just family dynamic that maybe gives it a little bit of heart. And obviously, the most iconic part is in the fifth one with the Luke, I am your father.
It's for sure. I mean, that was like a massive moment when they revealed that. Like people didn't see that coming at all. You know what's ironic about all this though, that I just realized as you're saying this. So the original 3 have that whole relationship of Luke and Anakin, and then the next 3 have Ben Solo, Han Solo in the first one, and then it kind of trails over into the other ones. The first one though is Anakin, and Anakin has no dad.
Yeah, it's true. He just says Obi-Wan.
What's that say? Yeah,
that's pretty weird. I don't know.
It is.
I don't know what to do with that.
Coincidence? No, but there is that is. I'm not saying that's what brought dads and sons closer together for this story, but it does almost feel like, hey, this is what happens when you like power over family or you like whatever, and then to kind of, it's almost like the redemptive thing of Star Wars is like it's kind of like a warning, and then brings families together in the end.
Mi familia.
Love it.
That's touching.
Yeah, I also just think dads think it's super dope. And they're like,
That's probably
my
more
kid
what
has
it
to see this.
My psychological brain's like, oh, this is just we're subconsciously going we need to make up
Well,
for
there probably is subconscious in there that we're not recognizing. It's exactly what you're saying. I mean, part of it too is the fact that it came out in the late 70s, early 80s, was extremely popular for that time, and then kind of stuck and was still popular, where it became like a classic. And then they started kicking out new ones 20 years later.
Just a generational gap, which is
exactly.
It was very natural to be like, oh, I saw this as a kid.
Yep.
Why don't I share this with my kids?
Because it was about 2 years, if I remember right, between when they re-released all the originals remastered and then when the Phantom Menace came out.
Yep.
So there was a little time period there in between where you had that to simmer
rekindled.
on. Yeah, exactly. The remastered ones came out and they were awesome. I mean, there was all kinds of other movies coming out at that time in the 90s, that were awesome too. Jurassic Park and Mission Impossible and all that stuff. And Star Wars still was catching your attention.
Yeah.
And built that anticipation for the Phantom Menace. So
I think too, because I realize this now after seeing all of them, but when you go back to watch A New Hope, the seeds that they plant for Anakin and his downfall and all this stuff, I forgot that they actually Obi-Wan explains all of it. Mm-hmm. And then that's what led to the hype of the prequels is we're actually going to get to know what the Attack of the Clones was. I forgot that was actually dropped in the original
they're the Clone Wars. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Or, yeah, sorry, not Attack of the Clones.
Yeah, no,
sorry, we're talking about the best Star Wars
movie.
movie. Sorry. Okay, what about specifically Episode 4 though? Do you have a favorite moment? Do you have a favorite line? Do you have a favorite thing that happens? This is what stuck out of my brain.
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know if I really have a favorite moment specifically. I mean, I one that comes to mind for me is that moment where Han comes back and bails out Luke in that last moment, because it didn't look great. You weren't sure what direction that was going to go. I mean, obviously you assume the good guy's going to win, but that was an awesome way for that to happen. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's just so many good lines. I don't know for sure.
Sometimes with those movies growing up in childhood, the things that stick with me are the scariest for some reason. I don't know, the word I can think of is the trauma is what stuck with me. It's that trash compactor scene.
So good.
Is the most memorable scene for me. It's
that
just
is a stressful scene.
Seeing the monster come up and then go back down. I'm like, oh fricka,
it's gonna get me.
And then it does, and then and Mark Hamill is just losing his mind, and everyone's just closing up, and it looks like they're actually in something that isn't closing. So it's I hope this is up to code. I hope they don't actually die. Who knows?
There's real threat to it, and there's real it looks real, like you say. It looks like it's actually happening because it's probably a physical set. So that's what brings it it grounds it. And so that's a great scene. My favorite scene is probably when Han Solo is chasing the stormtroopers down the hallway.
Yes.
and he's shooting after them, running after them, and he turns a corner, and there's like a billion of them.
That's by far the funniest part of the movie.
Yes.
I mean, it's awesome.
Oh, it's so good.
Yeah. I've rewatched that scene so many times.
It's so good.
There is one, I think it's in this one, but when they're dressed as stormtroopers and they're like trying to hack into it, and then there's like a bunch of stormtroopers that come in. One of them's too tall and just totally bangs his head on the door coming in, and then just has to act cool the entire scene. So even though he just totally just ate shit right at the beginning of the scene.
So that's the thing that like was during the remastered cut. George Lucas added a bonk sound.
Oh, he did.
Originally, like when he hit his head, like it didn't make a noise, but like he went into it after years and years.
Yeah, it's less noticeable.
And then so like he actually went in and added a little. Boom.
What an awful, like, just cut that part. Like, I don't get why you don't just edit it.
It's the best part, dude.
I know, but by adding a bonk, it's just like it makes it even more.
That's the point. That's the point. So like he was like, hey, this is kind of funny.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
They chose to emphasize some weird things in that remastered version.
Yeah, I think episode 4 may have the worst of the remasters.
It definitely does. Yeah. I mean, the fact that, again, it's not that... It kind of is a big deal, though. Like, with the Han Solo Greedo thing. I mean, it's one of the things that gets discussed the most. So, I'd say it's the most well-known thing that they remastered. But that is a significant thing to change in that scene.
Yeah.
Because basically, it becomes Han got lucky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what it becomes. So the great debate, if anybody who's listening to the podcast doesn't know, is there's a scene in the bar in the cantina on Mos Eisley where Han and Greedo are sitting opposite each other. They both have their blasters out under the table. In the original version, Han just torches him. So he shoots Greedo, and he just like smokes, and you're like, well, he just kicked his ass. Like, that was like, just destroyed him.
Yeah.
In the remastered version, Greedo actually shoots and misses, and Han then just torches him after that.
He has a little like head flinch.
Right, exactly. But it like ricochets off the wall, and you're like, why would you do that?
Yeah.
I mean, basically, he just got lucky, right?
Yeah.
I mean, because it really changes his like who he was in that moment. Like, I mean, he seemed like a very like crafty smuggler then. In that, which was the persona that he played the whole time. And I know it's not that big of a deal. I mean, we're getting into
it's kind of a big
we're
deal.
getting into a fictional character, but he is like my favorite character in the movie. So I mean, he's a pro, you know. He's got these like compartments in the Falcon that he hides all this stuff, and like he knows what he's doing. So like that moment is fairly significant. So it's odd that they decided to do that.
His thing was like, he wants him to be more like a hero. But he's not supposed to be a hero at this point. He's supposed to be like kind of like, he's a smuggler. He's a rat bag, whatever.
Super selfish.
Yeah. I don't know. It's an interesting choice, but there's been interviews where like with George Lucas, and he has a shirt that says Han shot first.
Yeah.
And he just I don't know. There's a part of him that I think he's just kind of trolling people.
Yeah.
Because now it's this huge thing, and I don't know.
Yeah.
That's true.
That's good.
So I do have a question, because I feel like universally, or maybe like the majority would say that the best Star Wars movie is usually Empire Strikes Back.
Amen.
Is there a reason, and I respect you for this, is there a reason why you think A New Hope is? Do you think it is better, or do you just think you enjoy it more, or what? You don't have to answer to anyone if you like this movie more. I just am curious, because usually across the fan base, for some reason, it's just an unspoken rule that Empire Strikes Back was the best.
So I would agree that Empire Strikes Back is probably like technically the best movie out of all of them. But to me, it's the original Star Wars is my favorite because of somewhat what I mentioned earlier, but part of it's like the meaning behind it. Like it's the one you got introduced to first. It's the one where all the originality happened. Empire Strikes Back is just building on that.
Yeah.
So I mean, it is incredible, and it probably is like the best one to watch and like rewatch out of them. But to make this first movie, think of what they had to come up with.
That's true.
I mean, there was like now a lightsabers, that's like commonly known everywhere, like all these different things. So they created all these ships, these weapons, these species, the droids, the characters, all this, the planets, all this, and Empire just builds on it.
It's true.
That's the reason I've actually thought about that when I think it was my kids who were asking me that, like, which one's your favorite, and I'm aware that Empire is widely known as the best one, which wasn't directed by George Lucas,
right?
Oddly enough.
Yes.
Yeah. The only one he directed.
You actually taught me that.
Oh, yeah. Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Of the original 3, he only really directed 6.
No, he directed A New Hope.
Okay.
Yep. 6 was, I think, directed by somebody else.
Oh, okay.
And then he did the prequels.
Yeah.
Yeah, he shouldn't have done that.
Well,
That's another podcast.
yeah.
I think
He wasn't doing enough
totally
drugs
along your
when he
lines
made
of
the prequels.
I think Empire Strikes Back is my favorite, but I there's no gripes with the No Hope, because there is this homebrew kind of feeling to it where it's just like there's just this feel to the movie that it just works, and it's totally understandable to be like, yeah, this is the best one because it's the first one, it's just the one I fell in love with, it's a perfect story, it's like the hero's journey, and like, you know, it's arguably with a perfect movie. No, it doesn't look the best, the acting isn't the best. It is of its time, but it's still like it could. Yeah, I there's no qualms with it at all.
The one comment I wanted to make on that was, I mean, for me, it's kind of like similar to the first Avengers film versus the last. The last one has so many intricate moving pieces. You're like, holy crap, how did they pull this off? And you look at the first one and go, oh, the plot of that was, let's get them all together. Let's get them on a ship. Let's go beat up some guys. But without that first one just being so dope, you couldn't have an end game and have the payoff that it had. And so I completely agree. That's why Avengers still stands the test of time for me.
Your favorite Avengers?
Well,
is the first
I don't know if it's still my favorite Avengers film, but I can't take it out of like the top 5 because it's just, even though the plot itself wasn't anything special compared to some of these other well-written movies, that it, for me, it kind of has the same thing that you think of with New Hope. It's like you can't ignore this movie.
Yeah,
it literally did everything. It was successful doing something that has never been done before.
Right.
You know, so I agree, and that's why I thought that was kind of neat that you picked this movie versus, you know, the majority would say.
I mean, it was, and again, back to what I said earlier, is part of it is just like the whole experience of how I went through it. It was the first one I saw. It was the one that got me into it. First one I saw in the theater, and I don't remember what the time frame was like when they released the other ones after that, and like how big of a gap there was. I imagine it wasn't very much. Like when Empire came back out.
Oh, there's about 3 years. Yeah.
Oh, did they wait that long?
Between
when they originally made. But when they re-released the
remix,
remastered in like 97, I don't know how long it took to go see those next ones. But like that's where my connection was made, was with the original Star Wars.
Yeah. So for someone who's new to Star Wars, what is your viewing order of the Star Wars films? This is the other like crucial, controversial topic.
I mean, I think it's pretty straightforward.
I know. I mean, usually that's how it goes. But
I mean, I would say watch the original Star Wars first. I would say watch Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi, and then take it or leave it on the rest of them.
Wow. I was not expecting the last part.
I like them. I mean, they're fun, but they're not what the originals are.
Wow, fair enough.
I mean, you can't and you even go on to like some of the new stuff that's been made. So my opinion has changed on some of the things where you and I, Nick, have talked about the last 3 movies.
Sequel trilogy.
Yeah. And is that what they're referred to as? The sequel trilogy? Yeah. And you know how good they are. And as I have watched those now, I like the Last Jedi I've maybe seen twice, maybe 3 times. The Force Awakens I saw a bunch of times.
Yeah,
and I actually really liked The Force Awakens.
Yeah. There was definitely
a
fever going on at
fun.
that time.
Yeah. And then what is the last one even called?
Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah, The Rise of Skywalker. See, I've only seen it once.
The Rise of hot garbage. Just straight hot garbage.
Yeah. So I saw it in the theater, and I don't think I've seen it since then.
Yeah. Same.
So I actually kind of forget even some pieces of it. So the opinion I formed after that was when they released Mandalorian, that show that a lot of people probably haven't seen necessarily on Disney Plus. To me, it was like it showed me everything they should have done in those movies, and a lot of it was like the fans just want more of what you originally made.
Yeah.
You don't have to go do something else or
Right.
remake something or try to like do this big deviation from it. Like people just love Star Wars. They love to see that universe expanded.
Yeah.
This is my opinion, obviously, but
Right.
like in Mandalorian, instead of like trying to create new species of creatures and planets and all that, they just dove deeper into it. So like you know, you go back to the original Star Wars and there's these sand people. And you don't know a dang thing about them. So they're interesting. And I mean, they're obviously like thought out characters that are kind of neat in the original, but you don't learn much about them.
Yeah.
And then they like in Mando, they like dive into that, and it's awesome.
Yeah.
So like as an originals character in Mando, you connect with all the like I know in those episodes, I catch so many little things constantly that they're like referencing or like choosing to accentuate more from the originals, and I'm like, man, this is. And I'm really curious of your opinion on this because of growing up with the prequels and really liking those. Like, does it hit you that same way when you watch those?
So when you say watch order, I would go. So I grew up on the prequels, so I'm of the generation that enjoyed the prequels when they came out and still enjoy the prequels, which I feel is how this generation would feel for the sequels. So I would go 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3. You can watch Rogue One and then start over.
Rogue One's awesome.
I love Rogue One.
Yeah.
Rogue One is, other than Mandalorian, is the best thing Disney has done for Star Wars.
Rogue One's awesome. Solo is not very good.
Okay, I wanted to ask you that question because Solo is your favorite character, so...
That's why I didn't like it that much.
Okay.
It's like, this guy's not Harrison Ford.
Yeah,
Come on now.
that too.
I mean, that's like that's seriously like the biggest problem with it.
Yeah.
And then I couldn't get over that.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think a de-aged Harrison Ford kind of even just like stumbling around would have been a better movie than a young spry like, how did you get your name? Oh, you were flying solo.
Oh, so
That was the...
stupid.
that's the
Do you like my puns? I was like,
Oh my
no, turn it off.
he doesn't even actually act like Han Solo very much, which is weird.
And
Like,
that's a tough role to do.
It
like,
is.
just to step
Yeah.
into and be like, hey, this most iconic thing, probably.
Yeah.
I'm going to try it, and... Yeah.
Well, and there can't be redemption yet, right? Because he
Right.
has to be kind of a scumbag by the end of this so that he's still a scumbag continuity-wise
Right.
for him to then have redemption. So you can't like this guy technically on
it's
paper.
tough.
So it was just a bad thing.
It was a
but
bad choice.
AKA they just should have not made that movie.
Exactly, yeah.
Just
the
let
one
it,
thing
just
I
let
will
it alone.
the one thing I will say is the one problem with Hollywood is usually the people making the movie like decisions aren't the fans of
Right.
these things. And so typically what you're seeing is, nostalgia and remakes. And none of those don't include the original characters. And I think that's where you're seeing some of this, like, yes, there can be nostalgia. Like, Mando's touching on those things, but there still is enough new there that there's something interesting. They didn't have to lean on a Mark Hamill. They didn't have to lean on a,
Harrison Ford, Carrie
You know.
Fisher. Like, that's where the sequels
Yeah.
fall flat for me, is because it just didn't work.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we don't need to talk about the sequels.
No, it's fine.
But,
I just was curious of viewing order.
What was your viewing order?
Oh, it is also 4, 5, 6. I do enjoy the prequels, but for me, it's like the memories of. Trying to remember what the song is called. I think it's
Duel of the Fates?
Duel of the Fates.
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
I mean, that's
And
song
Phantom
is
Menace. I
awesome.
mean, it's just
Yeah,
I could listen to that just over and over again.
I do like the Phantom Menace.
Yeah.
Minus Jar Jar.
Even the part
Yeah.
that Jar Jar unforgivable. However,
But see, like,
the
I
most
was a kid when Jar Jar came out.
Yeah.
And so I was like
Merchandise.
6 or whatever, and I was
Merchandise.
like, Jar Jar is the funniest character
Oh,
in
you
the world.
actually liked him?
I liked him when I was a kid. Now I'm
Yeah,
like, now
true.
I'm like, okay, fine, but I don't have this hate for
he's
him.
he's the guy who like gets your kids' attention while you're
Yeah,
taking
so
them
that was
to
me.
Star Wars.
That was me. He took my attention.
But the one thing I will say, the most unforgivable thing about the Phantom Menace is just Darth Maul not being more than what he was.
I
Because
know.
arguably, just like,
What a waste.
how could you be almost as iconic as Darth Vader?
Yeah.
If not, like, I don't know, like he almost rivaled him in the
'cause he's
hype
dope.
of that
Yeah.
time, and like
It was
the
a
look
horrible choice.
and
And
that-
Qui-Gon Jinn too.
Oh yeah,
The
Qui-Gon Jinn
problem
was
with
a
the
great character.
prequels is that they didn't have a central villain. If they had a Darth Maul all the way to the third movie and a Sidious, I think it would work better than Dooku being thrown into the second movie.
Yeah.
Obviously, Christopher Lee,
But it's
great,
that's
but
what I'm gonna say. Yeah.
Yeah, but he really didn't even develop during those movies
No.
at all.
Mm-mm.
He was just kind of a side character.
I'd love to have seen his history because him being like a Jedi master and then
It's
becoming a
interesting,
Count
yeah.
Dooku is like, okay, so why is this different than Darth Vader? Why did he never become Darth Vader?
He was
Or,
actually
like,
Yoda's apprentice, right?
Yeah.
right, yeah,
Mhm.
and then just something kind of, I mean, basically his exact character as Sauron in Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
Right,
I mean,
that's
he
true.
literally does the exact same thing.
Yeah, they should have carried Darth Maul through all those prequels, and then he could have died in the last one. That would have been fine. It would have been like the big villain to beat.
yeah,
It was a strange choice because he was a great.
he was great.
character.
He didn't even
Awesome.
say a line of dialogue. I
I
think he
know.
said like
He said
something
one
like,
line. It's like it shall be done.
yeah,
he
it
was,
shall be done.
He was
That just-
so impressive.
and we
though.
still remember this guy.
Yeah.
Like,
So-
He's sick.
insane.
Did you guys get into the expanded universe of this at all?
Oh, yeah.
And then also, I mean, I don't know if you want to stick to the original movie, we can, but
No.
but then also like some of the cartoons and stuff.
Oh yeah, Clone Wars grew up on that.
Okay.
The old,
Yeah.
the OG 2D animated with like Samurai Jack guy.
Mm-hmm.
Well, on Cartoon Network, love that. Clone Wars, games, comics, books. I was in.
Oh wow, yeah.
So I kind of missed the cartoons. I was just slightly older than Zavala, so I didn't quite watch like Clone Wars growing up or like Rebels or any of those things. But now that they're all on Disney Plus, I've thought about diving in because I think from what I've heard, they like kill it. They're pretty good.
Yeah.
Clone Wars is, from what I've seen of it,
It's solid stuff.
yeah,
the
it's,
last
it's pretty
season's
good.
fantastic.
Mhm.
The one they
Ties in
just
some
did,
cool
yeah,
stuff
it's so
because
good.
Revenge of the Sith, I mean, really like they threw some gas on some fire, and you're just like, wait, what happened? I
Yeah.
forgot. Like, what are all these things?
Do you mind if I spoil something for you in Clone Wars?
Totally
or-
fine.
Yeah. I mean, so they bring Darth Maul back.
Yeah.
Okay,
I did
you know that?
Yes, with
Yeah, I
like
wasn't sure
spider
if you knew
legs
that or
and
not.
stuff because his
Yeah.
waist
'Cause he's
doesn't
such a great
exist.
character.
Yeah.
Well, that's the
We
thing.
knew
I mean,
he
it's
was
like
back.
they threw him away,
They knew that, yeah.
but they bring him back, and then he dies again. But
I mean, we should have known, right? Because I mean, like Luke fell down the same way that he did,
right,
and
Right.
I mean,
Well, he wasn't
granted,
chopped
Darth
in
Maul
half.
was chopped in half, but cauterized wounds, you're fine. What do you really need your bottom half for anyway?
Magic
as a
witches
Sith? I mean,
brought
what
him
are you gonna
back.
do?
Yeah, it works.
Yeah,
It
you're
works.
fine.
anything can work in the Star Wars universe as long as
Yeah.
yeah.
The
That
one-
was a waste though.
The one thing I will say I did in the expanded universe though was I played a Dungeons and Dragons campaign in the Star Wars universe,
That's
Oh.
sick.
and I based a character off of Darth Maul.
Nice.
And then he died in the first level, and so I had to recreate a character, and I made
Well, that's
it Wookiee
ironic.
instead.
Yeah, that's-
so, yeah. There you
That's
go.
kind of like yeah.
So-
It was great.
You should have seen that one coming.
Yeah, you get chopped in half.
No, a turret turned around and point blank shot me in the face, and I died. And the GM was like not forgiving, so he's like, "Oh, this is the tutorial level," and I was like, "So what do I do?" And he goes, "Start a new character." I was like, "Oh my gosh, are you serious? I spent like 10 hours on this guy."
Dude, this sucks.
Yeah,
That's great.
I'm
So
not bitter. It's fine.
part of the lack of enjoying the sequels
Mhm.
was part of my exposure to the expanded universe as it was, and I'm
Mm,
not like
yeah.
I knew that wasn't what they were gonna do, but that was one thing. I did read a decent amount of those books when I was in that phase. So like I don't know of those series, like some of them people I've talked to about it, they're fairly well known, I think, in Star Wars fandom. There's like the Rogue Squadron series.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yep, and then there's I don't even remember the names of all of them, but there's a lot of like trilogies of
Yeah.
books that, and
Like
then
the Thrawn trilogy and
Yes.
like Dark Fate and
Yep.
like all that stuff.
and there's one specifically that gets into like this weird alien race comes and like Chewbacca and stuff dies.
Oh snap!
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Let's
Like
go.
yeah, it's crazy. Like the Falcon gets destroyed and Chewbacca dies, and so there's some like really heavy stuff
Sure.
that happens in those books. So I think a lot of people are speculating, like, what direction are they going to go with this when they make these sequels? Are they going to follow any of that? Because that all comes after Return of the Jedi.
Right.
Right.
And I don't think they needed to follow that by any means, because then it'd be like, what's the fun of
already
that? But
know.
they didn't
True.
do.
Yeah.
It was nothing. It was like it didn't exist.
Yeah.
hmm
I think the writing was quite a bit better in some of the sequel stuff that was written and what they ended up making.
Sure.
But they were, I don't know, The Force Awakens was a blast. It was like
True.
it was like a supersized version of A New Hope. Like, and
That's yeah. it is.
that's probably why I liked it. Like,
Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, it basically just like, J.J. Abrams knew,
Yeah.
give fans what they want
Mhm.
and riff off of that. and I thought it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, to me, like, The Force Awakens was the sales pitch, and it was super safe.
Yeah.
And it was like,
for
let's
sure.
get you to invest in this. And we're like, all right, buddy, we're in, because this was just A New Hope with a lady and a bigger Death Star.
Yeah,
I dig it.
and they were very
And we're like,
intentional
all
about
right,
that.
you did exactly what the other movie
Yeah,
did.
7 was the reboot safe. Like, let's
Yep.
just get it back on board. 8 was the wild card that was like, hey, let's really go out of the water. And 9 was the reaction to doing that out of the water.
The
Yes.
apology.
The
Yeah, there was like,
pullback.
hey, we're sorry, and we're gonna make just nobody happy with
Yeah.
this movie.
The great pullback.
Exactly.
Yep. Yeah, and so originally when I watched The Last Jedi, so this you talk about kind of the family and like your connection like as a family to this stuff. Part of why I love Star Wars so much, probably why it's so meaningful to me. So, Force Awakens, oh man, kind of embarrassing. I dressed up I dressed up as Boba Fett.
Oh.
And so myself and Scott and our kids dressed up and went to the theater
Nice.
and saw The Force Awakens. So I was Boba Fett in the doggone Coral Ridge Mall. And
Let's go.
Scott's walking around as Darth Maul
Yeah.
in spandex.
It is like spandex. Yeah.
Yeah, and they made us
Leggings.
take off our masks. And I was like,
Right.
oh crap, I thought I was going to be able to wear a mask all the time. Nobody knew who I was.
Yeah.
I was hoping I wouldn't see anybody I knew.
They're
Anything,
like,
but...
hey, how's it going, Cap? Wait, no.
And I was convinced, like, oh, everybody's going to be dressed up for this thing, you know? Force Awakens. There was a couple, but
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
too many.
When we went to the Last Jedi premiere, there was a sword fighting class that came and did a lightsaber
That's
duel
so sick.
before the premiere.
Oh, that is awesome.
it
that's
was
awesome.
pretty cool.
That's
And
so
it was
cool.
like people who like weren't jacked. It was just like they're just like we're really into this, and they were great. But it also just like gave me hope. I was like, anyone can be a Jedi.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, this is so good. They're just like chopping each other. I was like, this is good.
That
That was
awesome.
the best part of Last Jedi for sure.
So my Last Jedi experience, seeing it the first time, is why I liked it. It was all about the setup to it. So Force Awakens had a great time.
Right.
So then between Force Awakens and The Last Jedi, Dad and I were like speculating like crazy because
Ooh, yeah.
it's one of the things we've talked about
Yeah.
all over the years a lot is Star Wars just for fun because it's fun, you know. It's
Right.
fun to have something like that to talk to your dad about. But we would call each other and be like, oh, what do you think's going to happen in The Last Jedi? So we as a whole family, like all my siblings, our kids, everybody, went to Last Jedi together, like right when it opened. And so Dad and I, the week of, we had done like several calls predicting like what was going to happen. And he called it like to a T.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah, like when
Good for him.
what is that dude's
Snoke?
name? Yeah, when Snoke gets like just cut in half. Oh, that's so
Nerd.
awesome. That part was great.
That was sick.
Oh, the throne room scene. Let's be honest.
It was awesome. That scene in general, that whole scene was awesome.
Yeah.
Like the fight and everything in there. So he called that part. He's like, Snoke's gonna get killed. It's gonna be Kylo Ren turning on him. And he called and I was like, I don't know about that. I think there's more to Snoke than he's like, nah, he's a throwaway character. That's what's gonna happen.
Wow.
And,
What
yeah.
a prediction.
That is a big call.
Yeah.
Wow.
So when that happened in the movie and Snoke got cut, I literally stood up and high-fived Dad in the theater because he was sitting behind me. And I was like, you called it!
Dude.
Well, yeah, I mean, that alone would make me, like, enjoy The
Yeah.
Last Jedi immensely.
Yeah.
Wow, I can't believe he called that.
Yeah,
That's-
I was shocked. So then again, my experience watching it was so
you
fun.
were-
Yeah.
It was a
on
great
high
memory.
After that, for sure.
And then as I watched it again, I was like, oh, the movie's not very good.
It's fine. It's fine. I mean, that's the thing. Like, Zaval has always kind of told me, he's like, I just wish they would have done what The Last Jedi did for all three of the. Like, if you're gonna do it,
Yeah.
just do
Just
it
go
for all
off,
three.
yeah.
Because the first one kind of sold us
Right.
nostalgia.
Yep.
The second one was like, screw your nostalgia. We're doing something different.
Yep.
And that wouldn't have been as big of a hit for me if seven was just, we're gonna hit you and you're like, we don't care about
Yeah,
your
for sure.
That's
Yep.
fine. I like when things are like, oh, this is unpredictable. It was predictable, and then it was unpredictable, and then the night
was
two was like,
predictable.
holy shit, we're so sorry.
Yeah. So I'm a Last Jedi apologist. It is not my favorite movie.
Yeah.
I enjoy parts of the movie. I think Canto Bight and the casino stuff is just bad.
Oh,
And I think a lot of
so
characterization isn't great, but I think it's shot well. I think the risk they take is something that like it's different, and that's what I like about it.
bad. Mhm.
I enjoy that they tried something new, and like that's what the whole trilogy should have been. It should be something new and not like yes, Force Awakens is good. It's probably the best of the sequel trilogy, but it's the most like New Hope. It's the safest bet.
Yeah.
And like I wanted something like I didn't want to see the original trilogy again. I wanted to see something new, and at least Last Jedi tried.
Yeah.
Like I give it props for trying.
Sure.
Did it succeed? Probably
Yeah.
not. Obviously not. A lot of people didn't like it.
I've softened up to it a little bit in the time. Like I've probably like I still don't think it was like great, and there's still some things that I'm like, oh, why did like Luke have to like milk Squidward in that one scene? Like, why did he have to do it? I just don't understand. Like, just somebody give redemptive value to that scene. But
it was all about that blue milk.
I know
from
the
A New
blue.
Hope
Yeah,
when
they just wanted to like
sitting
wink,
in-
wink, but
yeah.
it's like,
It was.
this is
way
not a
too
Luke
awkward.
that I like. But that being said, I have warmed up to the idea that Luke can change as a character, and that's okay to me. Because at first I was like, how dare you? This is completely the opposite of who he is.
Yeah.
But I do think that like who I am now is different than who I was when I was a younger child.
and
So
just
like
imagine
it
being
is
like,
fine. It just for me was like, oh, there were just parts when he's like, I think I have to kill Kylo Ren, and it's like, yeah, but you didn't do that with your dad the entire trilogy, all that stuff. So anyway, I could go on and on and on, but it doesn't matter. I think the beautiful thing about Star Wars is no matter where you're at on it, when you've jumped into it, what you like, there is still, no matter what, something somebody's going to like about these movies, I think.
Yeah.
I still have yet to find somebody who just absolutely hates all of them.
I would agree with that. I don't know if I've ever heard somebody say that. I mean, at this point, it is a wide net that has been cast on it. I mean, there is so many different flavors of Star Wars to be had anymore.
Enjoyed.
Yeah, it's true.
Well, in closing, what are you most excited for about the future of Star Wars? You said you've been getting into the Disney Plus stuff. Do you feel like there's some promising stuff coming there?
Yeah, I'm not sure what they're actually even working on, to be honest. I mean,
Well, to touch on your Obi-Wan Kenobi,
yeah.
they are filming a Ewan McGregor series.
And it is, yeah, it's Ewan McGregor, right? Okay, so yeah, that'll be awesome.
Yep.
I mean, the quality of Disney, I don't know if I'll be hated for saying this or not here, but Disney's I think was like the perfect suitor for Star Wars ultimately. Now they are gonna milk it for everything that they can.
There's goods and bads to being
But the upside of that is, I mean, they are gonna pump money into it and produce high quality content.
True.
And I mean, I think what they did with Mando was phenomenal. I mean, it was, again, I agree, like they need to do things that are new in these shows, but it's also awesome to see to learn more about all these different characters and things that you had seen before but really didn't have much context to. Like that whole episode about the Jawas, they show up and you just kind of see them, but you don't.
Great.
Yeah, I mean it's awesome. You get to see so many more things about them, and that's super fun. It was enjoyable and interesting at the same time. So I mean, I'm really excited for more Mando because I think they are making a season 3.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah, if they're bringing Ewan McGregor back for an Obi-Wan series, that would be awesome. But I've not heard of any more movies in the pipeline. What are the movies that are in the pipeline?
There were some kicking around. Obviously, solo sequels, but that's not going to happen.
Oh, I hope not.
There was a talk for Pennywise and the Boys, the guys who did Game of Thrones, to do some kind of trilogy, most likely Old Republic. But now they kind of got taken off. But Old Republic is in the talks. A trilogy of Old Republic is in the talks,
insane.
which would be that's if you want to do one thing in Star Wars, you got to do Old Republic.
Oh yeah.
I would scrap the sequel trilogy. Don't even do that. Just do Old Republic.
100%.
Everyone's waiting for Old Republic.
There is so much content there.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I
Old-
assume you guys have played that RPG game.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
KOTOR. Let's go.
I mean, it is phenomenal. The storytelling in that.
Well, when the Jedi are not so scarce, and the Sith are more than just the two, and there's just the wars. You could have an attack of the clones that's actually cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it was.
The teaser trailer doesn't even have to have a plot. It's just one green lightsaber lights up, and then 150,000 other green and blue lightsabers light up, and then one red lightsaber lights up, and then just 150,000 red lightsabers. I'm going to that movie. I don't even know what it's about.
Yeah.
But I'm going to it.
That's where I think, not to bring it back to sequels, that's where I think they failed, is that they should have been more, they should have done something like that, where more Jedis, more Sith, more everything. Don't make it just one more Jedi and whatever. So just the tease to have Old Republic would be Oh, it would be so cool.
See, that's where Attack of the Clones failed, though, too, is that they
Ah,
brought them all in, and then they get killed by a bunch of droids.
yeah.
Come on.
Yeah. It's
Nobody believes that.
Right.
Oh,
I mean,
my
Qui-Gon
gosh.
even opens up the Phantom Menace with him and Obi-Wan just smoking like
Yeah.
Oh.
12, like
Yeah.
without a problem.
battle
These,
droid.
like, these super battle droids that shoot one cannon out of their arms. It's like, God, we can't do anything about these guys.
I don't know what to do with this one
Goodness
cannon.
sakes. Man, if they make an Old Republic
They're doing like
trilogy, that would be awesome.
some of the books and the comics that have been coming out are Old Republic related.
Yeah.
I'm not super familiar with what's going on currently, but they're gearing up towards it. So
They should probably, at some point, not that I give a crap what I say about it, but they should make like a Rogue Squadron movie
Oh,
at some
yeah.
point too. I mean, I don't know if you ever read that book series, but like it was awesome.
yeah,
I mean, it was, and those scenes from the movies are amazing. Like the air combat scenes that they do.
True.
So that would be, I could see that being a really fun.
yeah, Rogue Squadron would be good.
I think one extended character that's pretty popular, like regardless if you've seen the movies or not, is Thrawn. Like a lot of people just know who Thrawn is, and he was hinted at in Mandalorian, so I'm sure he'll make a rise. And
There's
then
an
also
Ahsoka show,
Ahsoka's gonna get a show.
which they're talking about putting Thrawn in.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
that makes
She
sense.
was really cool, Amanda.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna cast it right here and now. Just if you can somehow get Benedict Cucumber Man, what's his name?
Cumberbatch.
Cumberbatch
To be Thrawn.
to be Thrawn.
Oh,
Absolutely
man.
insane. Anyway, but also Boba Fett is back and he's getting a show as well. So I mean, I think the future is bright, but I do think they're going. I think they're seeing these Disney Plus shows actually like. It's just a bet. Like it's weird. We're in a time where like movies used to be like the best way to tell stories, and now we're seeing that actually television isn't like the second class. You know, like it's actually like some of the better stories are now in these like 13 episode movies.
Well, think of what you can do in a TV show. I mean, we were talking earlier about like long form podcasts versus short snippets of it. I mean, a movie anymore is short.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't like build on that. The shows are all like hook based. They show you an episode, it ends with a hook.
It's true.
Bring you back for
It's a little more addictive.
They bring you back for the next one. But I mean, a season of Mando covers what? I mean, I don't remember how many episodes there are. Maybe 8 or something.
Yeah, 8 or 10.
Eight
So you're talking
hours-ish.
4. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I mean, versus a 2-hour movie. I mean, you can just do so much more with that.
Yeah, for sure. Dope.
Well, I think I have to ask a question, and I don't know if this is some controversy.
Oh boy,
Do we need to rank these?
all the movies.
All the movies.
Oh sure.
Okay.
Like together or individually?
Rank them. Be like best to worst or whatever.
Okay.
Individually, not or as a group.
As a group, all Star Wars movies.
Okay, but he's saying like, are all three of us making the list?
Oh no, like we can have our own lists.
okay,
Yeah.
got it. Okay.
Yeah, I can do that.
Okay.
Would it be easier to start at the worst or the best?
It might whatever, go either way.
I think I can go best to worst.
Okay.
We'll go that way. All right, so I go Star Wars. I don't call it A New Hope, by the way.
Ooh, my
Okay.
guy.
Yeah, I refuse.
You keep acting like you're not the guy that's supposed to be sitting in this chair.
I don't-
And then you keep saying stuff like this. So it's like
you can
you're
go back.
clearly the guy.
You can go back through the podcast and see if I ever called it A New Hope, but I intentionally don't call it that because they made that up
Afterwards,
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
You're right.
But you probably saw it as A New Hope.
Well, I don't care.
Okay.
He's a purist, man. He's a Star Wars fan. As much as he won't say it, he is a Star Wars
The
fan.
Star Wars.
Oh no, I love it. Okay, so
The New Hope.
Star Wars, Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi. So I just go
Hey.
right down,
Classic.
right down that row. I would actually go next after that. This is where it gets a little difficult for me to decide. But I would go next for that to actually a Phantom Menace.
Wow. Pretty high. Okay.
So that would be my next one, and a lot of that is, again, I was a kid when it came out. Loved Darth Maul. It has a lot of problems, but it was still like great when I saw it. I loved it when I saw it. So Phantom Menace. Next, I would go Force Awakens. Then I would go to Revenge of the Sith.
Yep.
Then I would go to The Last Skywalker. that what it
Rise of
is?
Skywalker.
Sorry, I didn't know what the heck it's
Dude,
called.
that's what the
I didn't know
worst
what it's
part about
called,
Mom is,
bro.
like no one knows
Yeah.
what it's called.
Yeah, the Rise of Skywalker. Yeah,
Literally has one of the names.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know what the heck it's called.
Fine. It's fine.
and then the Last Jedi, and then by far the absolute worst is Attack of the
Amen.
Clones.
Wow.
Holy smokes!
Love it.
Do we want to throw in Rogue One and
Oh,
Solo story?
I mean, Rogue One would get. I would bump Rogue One up to. I would put it as 4th.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
And then I would put Solo. It's just in line with Attack of the Clones. I thought
Okay.
it was garbage.
Yes, cool.
I think I fell asleep during it.
No, that's fair. You didn't miss much.
I think actually now that you're saying that, I remember you talk. I was like, "What do you think of Solo?" And you're like, "Honestly, I don't remember. I slept through something." I legitimately remember that.
That's
It just felt like any other movie to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, go for it.
Okay. So I'm gonna do Empire Strikes Back as number 1, and I will do Return of the Jedi as number 2,
Dang.
and then I'm gonna do Revenge of the Sith as number 3.
Oh, Nick.
Holy
I
smokes.
thoroughly enjoy Revenge of the Sith,
I'm not. That's not what I'm. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
and then I'm gonna do Rogue One as number 4. Then I'm gonna do a Star Wars, or the Star Wars. What's it called?
Star Wars.
Just Star Wars.
Oh, just Star Wars. Sorry.
5th.
And then I'm going to do oh boy, The Phantom Menace. And then I'm going to do Attack of the Clones. And then I'm going to do The Force Awakens.
Oh, you hated the sequels.
And then I'm going to do I'm actually going to do The Last Jedi. Because it at least was trying to do, like, do something that would piss me off. Whereas The Rise of Skywalker was trying to apologize, and that actually pissed me off more.
Yeah.
So I was like, just double down, dude.
That
Just
was,
like, just,
that was
that was the
weak.
word, yeah.
just,
That was weak.
like, and then, yeah, I'm not even going to mention Solo. Like,
Yeah.
it's just not even worth
It's
your
at the
time.
bottom of the barrel.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. Solo is at the bottom. All right. So I have 5 as my top. Then I go 4, or Star Wars. Then I would also go Revenge of the Sith as my 3rd.
Above Return of the Jedi.
I would go Rogue One. I would go. I would then go Return of the Jedi. I would then go Last Jedi.
The facial reactions from Kruzich over here.
Continue.
I would then go Phantom Menace.
Yeah.
Force Awakens. I take back my statement that Attack of the Clones is the worst Star Wars movie. It's not. It's then Attack of the Clones, and then it's Rise of Skywalker because of the apology and all that. It just feels like it was just the
That was weak.
yeah. And then down as far as you can go is Solo.
Yeah.
I hate Solo.
That's really not good.
Yeah. That's good to know, though, from you, though, because you would have, like, the most sympathy for it, as it
Yeah.
being your, like, greatest character.
My standards were very high.
But that also
yeah.
could be a reason why you hated it more.
You know what's funny about it is as soon as I saw the trailer, I knew I was going to hate it.
Yeah.
Fair.
I still
It's
went
too
and saw
bad.
it.
Yeah, I don't know. Anyway.
Miscasting is what screws up a lot of that stuff. I mean, Anakin in the prequels could have been a great character.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he really could have. And in Phantom Menace, the kid was so annoying.
Oh yeah, Jake Lloyd.
Oh my gosh. And then Hayden
That kid.
Christensen in the next two
Yeah.
was just as bad. And it's interesting because Mark Hamill in Star Wars was actually kind of annoying himself. I mean, he was like a whiny sort of.
In Star Wars, he's.
Yeah.
But I want to go to Tashi Station if they got some power converters.
Yeah, you got it.
Like, shut up.
Maybe the biggest sin was Phantom Menace didn't have to have him be a child.
Yeah.
He could have been like Luke's age.
Right.
So we could have skipped the like awkward teenage, I'm kind of have the hots for Natalie Portman, and just like, okay, that's already established in the first one.
Right.
So now we can have a relationship so that it's not two movies where it's like, wait, aren't you like 15 years older than this like child that you met in the first movie?
Right.
Oh, and now you guys like want to, okay, interesting.
that
Yeah,
time
it got
jump-
really weird.
Yeah,
That's fair.
that time jump is.
But his hair in Revenge of the Sith, so good.
Oh shoot. That was fun. This is fun, guys.
Yeah.
We really appreciate you coming on. This is a blast, and I think
Thanks
you
for having me.
stood the test. So you don't have to worry about comparing yourself. You were a great guest. You're far more into Star Wars than you let on,
Whoa.
and you're perfectly meant to sit in that chair next to us. So we'll definitely have to have you on if some KOTOR news comes out or something big Star Wars comes back on. So
Yeah.
Nice.
sweet.
It's great.
Well, you've probably heard many reviews on Star Wars, but you haven't heard from us. Not Us United. We'll catch you guys later.
All right. There you go.
You've just listened to Not Us United. You can find us under Not Us United on Spotify, iTunes, and YouTube. Please leave us a review and consider subscribing to our podcast. You can reach out for future podcast topic suggestions at notusunitedpod@gmail.com.